Alright, folks, this is Rebel Rousing Rich Bergeron.
It's the Tornado, Tony Pacquiao.
And Psychic Tom Paget, raring to go, his crystal ball.
And we have a special guest tonight at the 9 o'clock hour, which means nothing to people who aren't listening live, but oh well. International Championship Boxing, we had a post on our blog about this at FightNewsUnlimited.com not too long ago, a few days ago. And it's been founded and it's being run by a guy named Jack Perone Fulton. And we'll have to ask him if he's related to Travis Fulton, the guy who's got the most MMA fights on the planet. But that's another story, I'm sure. But this is going to be boxing with traditional gloves, I believe. We'll have to ask him about that. But it's going to be fought in something called the Fight Zone, which is a cage, a 24-foot, six-sided fenced hexagon. So it's basically cage boxing, but they're not calling it that. They're calling it International Championship Boxing. And we'll see what Jack has to say about the Fight Zone. And they have received unanimous approval from the Nevada State Athletic Commission. So,
wow,
that's a big step.
And when you sent the article, and Tom had the first response on it, and I kind of agree with his sentiments as we were talking before we got on the air. You know, we are both very traditional guys. You know, we're kind of old school. So it's like, could it work? Absolutely. You know, there's got to be advantages. There's got to be disadvantages. You know, and of course I'll let Tom elaborate on the points he made. Some of the points. One of the first points, you know, I would want to say is there, you know, the level of safety? Because you know, in a boxing match, you know, a fighter could get knocked out of the ring. We just mentioned a few minutes ago before we got on the air, Bernard Hopkins, his retirement fight was knocked out of the ring. You had other fights. One of the most famous, Jack Dempsey and Luis Firpo, back almost 100 years ago. You know, so, you know, things like that, you know, you're preventing that, you know, possibility. But another thing is if a fighter's going down, is there a chance that he could take a head-first fall into a cage if he gets staggered pretty good and hit the back of his head on his way down against the cage, which could obviously be a, you know, a factor of danger.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what Jack has to say about that one.
And Tom, I know I was going to leave your points, you know, for you to, you know, elaborate on. I didn't want to steal your thunder.
Oh no, I think you covered it pretty good. And you know, some fighters are really good though at playing the ropes. I mean, well, I think we can look at the Rumble in the Jungle. That speaks for itself.
Oh, of course.
On that, but I've seen this more that really, and again, I can defer to Tony on this. He spent more time in boxing gyms, but I'm sure you've seen guys in there that make an art out of it.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it was funny. You know, I'm glad you brought that point up. I sound like a politician now. I'm glad you brought that question up there, Tom. But my one trainer, Kevin, we used to call him Slick Vic because he was a guy like he would like to get back up against the ropes, and you know he would have tremendous reflexes, and he was in his you know early 40s at the time. You know, he would have tremendous reflexes, and he would do like almost some rope-a-doping, and sometimes when he was really on his game, he was parrying, he was rolling, doing the old shoulder roll, and you're like, wow, it's like, how can I have not landed anything solid the whole time I had him on the ropes, you know, because he was twisting, he was moving, he was leaning back, and then the one thing I kind of stole from him was sometimes he would, you know, back up to the ropes as soon as he would touch it, he would, like a hot potato, but he would use it as a springboard, and he would spring off with the lead right hand or left hook, and he would think himself, you know, a little bit of extra, you know, burst when he did it.
Exactly, and I've seen it done. You know, I mean, and some guys really have it down, and their whole game would be changed. I mean, it's similar in MMA in some ways, because MMA in a ring is a very different energy than in the cage.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, definitely more technique. I mean, you can't just grab someone and throw them up against the cage and pin them there, it's just different. And I've talked to guys that fought up, and they all say that there's more technique in the ring. So this will really be interesting tonight.
And you know what? Before we get our interview on the air, I did start off saying I got a little bit of tornado trivia for you guys. I know, Tom, you made the comment on the email. You liked my one Halloween costume.
Yeah.
How did the makeup look with the swollen eyes and stuff? What I did when I was doing that one was I actually, because I knew I wasn't driving, I took a Scotch tape and I actually taped part of my left eye shut, and then I put latex and this putty over it to give the swollen. So you saw the picture with me and the older gentleman, right?
Right.
Okay. Did you recognize him?
From the show, right?
Yeah, exactly. And when he was a professional boxer, he trained under. You guys may or may not have heard of a guy named Charlie
Rocky
Goldman.
Marciano, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Rocky
Marciano.
He trained under Charlie.
He was Mickey.
Yeah.
That's why I put cut me, Mick. That was actually probably one of your best costumes I've ever seen, Tony. I didn't really get a chance to elaborate on Facebook, but that was cool.
So I hit pretty good at.
Yeah.
And very appropriate. Like I said, the Italian stallion.
And the one thing I said to my dad, and he disagreed with me when I was doing it, is I'm a stickler for details. And the one thing I was, I've done this costume before, but I really wanted to find the gold robe, because Rocky never really wore a black robe. I think he did in Rocky Balboa at the end, but for most of the movie, he wore a gold robe. I couldn't find it. They didn't have it. They only had the meat packing plant, the Stars and Stripes, which Rocky never wore a Stars and Stripes robe, and I'm a stickler. And then they had black robe, which is what I have. The black trunks were actually mine, the black and gold. I went out and got black and gold tube socks, because that's what he wore in the movies, and I got the gold tassels that go on the shoes. My dad's like, nobody's even going to notice them. And Cisco was like, love the shoes, socks, and tassels, and he's taking a picture of them. I'm like, that's right, Pop.
That's awesome.
So he's actually turning 95 next Friday.
Oh wow, that's awesome. That's pretty good. He looks happy anyway.
And
he's got a new grandson.
I was out at the place the other night, and when I was out there, I was on the first floor where the band was going to be, and his daughter had come downstairs looking for the restroom. She didn't, and I saw her, and my dad's upstairs, so I had to go up there. Next thing I hear people saying, like, who's this guy dressed as Rocky, like, basically crashing our party? So I did that. Then I did the Undertaker at work, and that one came out. I'm a stickler for details.
Awesome. Well, instead of dressing up for Halloween, I just went out and got 2 black cats.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's acceptable as well. I thought you were going to say 2 black eyes. I was hoping you were going to say not as bad as that one on that email you sent us.
No, I got. Yeah, we're going to talk about that later. Anthony Yajit. I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce it, but yeah, he got something in his eye, all right. I literally got 2 black cats, their brother and sister, and the kittens now. And I'm thinking of names for fighters, I was thinking 2 possibilities. Tyson, obviously, for the boy. It's a boy and a girl.
So, it's boy and girl, okay.
And I had a cat named Rocky. I would have named him Rocky. I had a cat named Rocky. He was the best cat ever, and he got hit by a car, so I don't want to give him bad luck.
Oh, ow. Because I was going to say, if you were... Hold on. Someone's here. I was going to say, because I didn't know you'd already had a cat named Rocky, because I was going to say Rocky and Allie. Allie Colombo.
Yeah. I don't know. I was thinking Tyson and Layla, because they're both black. So you gotta have
Okay,
black
that's
names.
good.
Layla Ali. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm thinking Ronda, too, might be good for the female because she's MMA and boxing
That's
MMA. But Ronda's not even doing MMA anymore. She's wrestling, so.
Hey, making money.
I don't know. I'll think of something. But I'm pretty sure the guy's going to be Tyson.
Hopefully I think it's Mike Tyson, not Tyson Fury.
Yeah, Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson. So he is technically inbred, so he could be Tyson Fury too.
Could be. You know what? And I don't know if the guy was bullshitting me tonight or not. I was at the gym. I had just finished my workout, and I was, getting changed. And I was talking to a buddy of mine there that I sometimes train, and we were talking. He's like, "Hey, any good fights coming up?" And I'm like, whatever. And we started talking, and I forget what the topic we got on. It might have been something about the Rocky costume I did, and then back to Rocky Marciano and stuff like that, and because then I was talking about Hank Sisco and everything, and this other guy, an older gentleman, was looking at me, and he's looking at me, we were talking, and then he pulls me aside afterwards, because then because this guy, we were talking about guys that I've interviewed, and, because I mentioned, Antonio Tarver, and this guy that I trained sometimes, Rob, he was saying, he goes, you have a gift, you just, talk to anybody, and you pretty much can, make conversations with anybody. And I said, really, I'm nobody special, I learned from a long time ago, if you have, an ability to reach people, you do it. And this forum really gives me that opportunity. And I was saying about the time I met Tarver a couple years ago, and I joked to him how, when we interviewed him, I asked for the first question, and I said, got any excuses tonight? And broke the ice. I said, one of the funnier interviews we ever did. I said, you would never believe it. And the guy goes, so I said, Ray Mercer. I said, the guy was hilarious. So I'm talking, I see this older gentleman keep looking at me. And he goes, what kind of type of stuff do you do? And he goes, what website are you referencing here? I said, Fight News Unlimited, whatever. He goes, I knew I recognized your voice.
Awesome.
Now, was he bullshitting me? He very well could be. But, he goes, I've heard your show.
Awesome.
He goes, I look for all different types of sports broadcasts and podcasts and things like that. And he goes, I've heard your show. And the one thing he did say was, back in the day, he had was a fan of Rocky Marciano. So is it possible that he looked up something Rocky on Google and stumbled upon one of our podcasts? It's possible.
Yeah, I guess what I'm most well known for now that I'm cited in a book about Rocky.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Yeah, we interviewed a lot of people over the years, and still tallying on the list here. Trying to get my roll on with a couple more. Bellator sends me a lot of people too. I just never pinned down a date with these guys, but I could get stuff with them. It would just be hard to get them on the show because they're never available during the times you want them to be. So it has to be a one-on-one interview with one of those guys, but we'll get a lot more, I think. We gotta make a deal with DAZN. We gotta make a blockbuster $1 million deal with them for all their interviews. Come on, we'll stream them live. I don't know. Anyway, we've got to get to some quick news bits here before we get Jack Fulton on, the cage boxing guy there. Khabib Nurmagomedov dropped a bomb on Dana White because Dana White dropped a bomb on him and said, you're not fighting Floyd unless Floyd comes over to the UFC. So Khabib's people come back with this chess move. We want $50 million for the next fight. I love it.
Wow.
$50 million. So, hey, more power to him if he thinks he can get that. But he might be on the shelf for a while trying to negotiate that kind of deal.
I got, she's away for the next few days, but one of my coworkers was telling me, and I got to have her send me the picture. but her cousin or her nephew, I'm not sure who it was, dressed up as Conor McGregor for Halloween. And she said he killed it, so I am interested in seeing that.
Awesome. Well, it's not too hard to be a long-haired Irish guy with a bottle of whiskey and a bunch of tattoos.
And a bunch of tattoos, don't forget tattoos.
Yeah. Boxer Anthony Yigit, we talked about this, referenced it a bit. He had a tough Saturday night against Ivan Baranchyk. It sucks because it was the first loss as a professional, and his eye was the size of a water balloon.
Yeah.
So, ouch. It is part of the World Boxing Super Series, and he got stopped, obviously. 7th round on doctor's advice. He didn't want that water balloon to get popped.
You know what, Rich, when you sent me that picture, you sent it to Tom and I, and I mean, you're right, it looked like a big sweet potato, you know, where his eye should be. And it brought back a memory of a fight 20 plus years ago. I'm going to go to my Rain Man book of knowledge here. And I'll never forget the fighter that lost the fight. And I'm trying to remember the guy that won the fight.
Mm-hmm.
There was this fighter, his name was Eddie Cook, you know, and he was fighting, I think it was the Scottish Bulldog, or something, the Bulldog, Scotty the Bulldog Olsen. I think that's who it was. But if you can fuss, maybe it could be on YouTube, I'm not sure, but they were fighting, and about the 6th, 7th round, the Scotty Olsen lands a right hand. And within a matter of seconds, that eye looked like that eye from that picture the other night. It was swollen, it was discolored. The actual swelling went around the side of his head, almost to like the back portion of his head. The whole side swelled up. And I mean, it was an immediate stoppage. You know, thankfully it wasn't, you know, a severe injury, but, you know, it was pretty scary looking how fast it happened.
Well, this is funny. Yigit himself says, with 5 more rounds to go, I was quite certain I could have flipped it. The eye is okay. It looks worse than it is. I got a couple stitches above the eyebrow from a cut, drained blood from my ear, and also got a small fracture in my jaw in the 5th round. A tough Saturday night. In other words, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been supporting me and cheering for me. I hope you enjoyed my fight, even though it didn't go my way, but I will come back stronger. So, tough guy. Tough Saturday night, and what a tough attitude. I could have turned it around. All right.
Well, Roger made a great comment about Carmen Bastilio back against Sugar Robinson in their second fight.
Yeah, never forget that picture.
2 more quick ones before we get our guests on here. This is an absolutely hilarious story, but true. In Bulgaria, we had another guy named Gennady Martirosyan. He's 26-4. Got beat by a guy from France, Faoud El Mossoudi, who was 15-11. So obviously kind of an opponent type of guy. And this is in Sofia, Bulgaria. And Martirosyan lost the fight. So what did he do? He went rogue. He tried to get his opponent first to go to the extra round, and he wouldn't meet in the middle of the ring for the official decision, and then he attacked his own trainer, and his trainer beat him up. So he lost twice in one night, this guy. And it was on the undercard of Huey Fury's IBF final eliminator with Britt. Well, that doesn't make sense. This is a mistake. Huey Fury fought Huey Fury, according to this one. Yeah, they screwed that one up. But I'm sure we'll get to those results later and get the right opponent for Huey. But yeah, this guy, he threw a punch at his own trainer. From inside the ring, he threw it outside the ring. His own trainer beat him up. Punch back. Crazy stuff. Off the rails. And there's one, this is, I guess we could call this the BS story of the week. Dana White has said that he's getting into the world of boxing. He's going to be forming Zuffa Boxing. But he just had an interview with ESPN, and he's still slinging the same bullshit line, but they're not doing anything in boxing. They just basically cock-blocked the biggest boxing opportunity they had with Floyd Mayweather versus Khabib. But he says, I had a meeting in LA yesterday. We are continuing to move forward, and we will absolutely positively be in the boxing business. Soon, he said. I just bought the building next door here. We'll build a $12 million facility. We'll basically have our own arena. We'll be able to put fights right here next door and air them live anywhere in the world. I can do MMA fights. I can do boxing. I can do kickboxing. I can do jiu-jitsu. I can do all kinds of different fights and tournaments. We're going to do a lot of things. Does that sound like a business plan to you? That sounds like they're trying to copy Bellator to me. Anyway, but yeah, he still says he's going to do boxing. And how does he plan to get all these boxers? He says, if you know how I run my business and what I like, yes, I want all the best boxers in the world. I want them to all fight each other and find out who the real champ is. That's what we're going to do. But how are you going to do that? How are you going to get all these boxers? Well, guess what? He will not work with Golden Boy Promotions, Top Rank, or Showtime Boxing. So,
Good luck.
You have to be the zone. Give the zone a call. If they ain't going to answer your call, well, ESPN Plus ain't gonna help you with much with boxing either, because they deal with Top Rank. So that's their supply. I don't know. It's just it just blows my mind. This guy thinks he can do boxing, and he can't even keep control of the UFC. This guy's wanting $50 million for his next fight. They had to do a trade to keep things interesting and get Ben Askren over to the UFC. I really think it's due time for me to really kind of do my own MMA Rain Man, so to speak, and dismantle what's going on with the UFC because their lawsuits are coming to a head with the class action. You guys saw, I actually got an email on that. It's like, I'm a fighter. they want to invite me to the information session, I guess, for the fighters on December 5th in Vegas. But it's just, it's making it look to me like they're at a major weak point. And, this would never happen in the Fertitta days. There would never be a trade like that. It just wouldn't happen. And you wouldn't see them trying to even get into boxing in those days because it would be too much of a risk. And the only guy stupid enough to risk it would be Dana White because he made all his money the easy way. Not that the Fertittas made it the hard way. But, I just think they're got a real problem right now. And a lot of competition is coming into the marketplace and thinning out their viewership. And, these streaming services are all battling for market share. And, let's talk about a segue here. This is a great time for something like International Championship Boxing to make its mark. Bare knuckle boxing just kind of made their big dent too. Moving along. So let's get Jack on the phone and get chatting about that. I need some dialing music. Hello? Jack.
Yeah.
Jack, this is Rich. Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron here. We're also on the line with Tony the Tornado Penical and Psychic Tom Padgett.
How's it going, guys?
Great.
What's going on? How are you? Doing well.
All right, Jack. Well, years ago on the show, I remember talking about the concept of cage boxing. I don't think it's a brand new thing. Other people have talked about it, but nobody's ever founded it like you have and gone the extra step. How did you conceive of it, and how hard was it to make it a reality?
Oh, my God. How did I conceive of it? Let's just really the rise of mixed martial arts played a role in it. I started looking at it, maybe 5-6 years ago. I was like, that's pretty interesting. And, it just seemed like a good platform for boxing. But at the time, I was like, well, just kind of let it fall by the wayside. But then I was leaving a show in California in 2016, and I'll never forget it. I was in a limousine, and I mentioned to to the, it was a public relations guy I was in a limo with. We were leaving the show. And I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. He said, you know what, that'd be really, really interesting. So then I spoke to my attorney out in Las Vegas about it. And, he reminded me of what BKB had done. I was like, that was kind of odd. I mean, this is, I think, is more in line with, with traditional boxing. It's not that extreme of a change. And he said, let me look into it. And so he looked into it. He says, listen, I think you might have a shot if you can come up with a, with a narrative that makes sense. So I went to work on it. It was a 2-year process. And it was a lot of hard work and quite a bit of legal work involved. And then we had to find a manufacturer that could manufacture the cage, and we did that. Shout out to Monster Rings and Cages. They do a great job. And we were able to make it a reality. One of the other reasons why, and this is probably a more important reason why, was that, in a lot of the discussions I was having with fighters around the country, I found out that there were a lot of mixed martial arts athletes that were moonlighting as professional boxers. Mm-hmm. And the training that some of these MMA fighters are going through is really pretty extreme. And just being a businessman, I said, you know what? It's only going to be a matter of time before that athlete is able to crack the code. So I said, I'm going to give it a shot. And, the response so far, honestly, it's been phenomenal. I mean, we just put a press release out Thursday. It hasn't really gone viral yet, but in the fight community, my phone's ringing off the hook. It really is.
Right. So my question right away is: we know it's in a hexagon and it's a cage. The fighters wear regular 16-ounce gloves like they would in a boxing match. Are they able to wear shoes? Do they come in barefoot? How does it work?
I'm going to tell you right now, and this is where it's going to rub, some traditionalists the wrong way. It's going to be officiated under ABC rules. The only difference is it's in a cage. Right. Now, the product itself. Now, I know that you said you guys have maybe heard discussions about it previously, but I've seen some sparring sessions, man, and it's a different product because when a boxer or fighter, really we have to call them fighters now because they're going to be MMA guys coming into this, just the box. When their heel touches the back of that fencing, they have to react. Okay. And also, when one of the fighters, if they're under pressure and their back goes to that fencing, they've got to fight their way out, man, or else they're going to get stopped. And I think for the fight fan, they're going to get everything that they love about MMA, and for the boxing fan, they're going to see a little more action what they've come accustomed to in recent years.
All right. Well, I know my colleagues have some questions, so.
That's right. That's what I'm here for.
All right, Tom, you had the first question on the email, so I'll let you go first on this.
Yeah, Jack, this is fascinating. I mean, you've really given me a different perspective on things. And, I've been around and I've seen a lot of changes. And I'm always open-minded to things. And I think you answered one of my questions because my concern is, an old-school boxing guy going, a lot of fighters can actually craft the style around playing the ropes. I think a good example would be the infamous Rumble in the Jungle. Muhammad Ali was able to do it. And, some fighters, some of the old-school guys can actually get some momentum, coming off the ropes and cover up and use it defensively. And in one sense, I kind of missed that. But you made a very good case here just in the last few minutes to say, well, first off, it's boxing, but it will be different. And it could result in more action. So, wow, my mind's just, I'm sort of replaying all this. And, I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it.
listen, I appreciate those comments, and listen, I went through 2 hearings in Nevada. Okay, the first hearing, you could tell they were completely caught off guard, and they were like, we don't understand why you want to do this. You know, what is the cage going to look like, and you know, who's going to do the matchmaking? There's a lot of questions, you know, asked. In the second hearing, you know, I'm standing up there, and it's my turn to present, not my attorney. I have to stand there, and I have to, you know, deal with the barrage of questions. One of the most serious questions was, Jack, how do you think the traditionalists are going to react to this? And my answer at the hearing was, if you were born within the last 15 years, you've grown up watching combat sport in a cage. Now, that caused everybody on that panel to take a deep breath. We're doing this to breathe new life into the sport, okay? You will see more action, but also you're putting the sport on a platform, a more contemporary platform, where the younger fans who want action are used to going to fights that have action and they're properly matched. Love or hate mixed martial arts, I'm starting to become a fan now. But the one thing they do a good job at, the fights are evenly matched. You never know who's going to win, you know? And boxing over the last 10 years, unfortunately, we've kind of gotten away from that. You know, if you've been in the sport for a little while, you go into these fights pretty much knowing who's got the edge. And this component changes all that, because at any given moment in cage, and when they're boxing, anything could happen. So it brings that suspense factor back to the sport.
Wow. Yeah, this is fascinating, because I've always thought, you know, because I'm a fan of both. I mean, I'm an old school guy boxing, going back, and I remember watching the original Friday Night Fights as a little kid back in the 1950s. But then when MMA came along, I've been hooked since UFC 1 back in November 93, and I've always felt that it's a big tent. There's plenty of room for boxing fans in MMA and MMA fans in boxing, and somehow that divide is still there. Now, if you'd have said this to me 15 years ago, I wouldn't have believed it. I said, well, eventually there'll be more of a merging, which I'd like to see. But this would really help speed up that process, because we're not saying the ring's going to become obsolete. Let's make it a market thing, and let's see how it's going to go. But this could have an unintended side effect of really bringing more MMA fans to appreciate the subtleties of boxing. So
absolutely,
I can't wait for this. I just can't.
I mean, listen, you know, at the beginning of MMA events, you know, they announce what the fighter's discipline is, whether it's jiu-jitsu, you know, striking, you know, whatever. But boxing is the ultimate discipline, if you think about it. You know, you can't use your feet. You know, you cannot grab the guy, toss it to the ground to get him off you. So, and that's something that's genius in the marketing of mixed martial arts and what UFC. Hats off to them. They've done a great job. But we haven't done anything innovative in boxing. And again, I know it's going to ruffle a few feathers, but once they see the product, I'm sure we'll win them over.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not like a zero-sum game, because if more boxing fans, if more MMA fans see the excitement and the beauty of boxing and the value of boxing, MMA, well, I think jab is underutilized. Boxing's movement, boxing's lateral movement, boxing's head movement, the fluidity, the timing, all that stuff is so important. I'm just getting excited thinking about it now, because I was sort of agnostic when I first heard the idea, but I'm always willing to have my mind open on it. And, you've really done that. So, yeah, this is exciting. Tell me, what do you think?
Yeah, the one question I was going to ask you, Jack, and
I've been in boxing, for involved in it for 23 years as a competitor on the collegiate level, training in Philadelphia, very old school traditional boxing gym. So I got to really see the sport from the little nitpick things, like just even the footwork, anything like that. Now I will sometimes train other people. So I'm really a big fan of the scientific aspect of the sport. And one of the things that when I first heard about this, and I know Tom had his questions regarding how the style may change even slightly because of the different environment. My question would be, when you were originally pitching this idea, were any questions really thrown back at you regarding safety? And the reason I ask that, and one of the fights that popped in my mind thinking about this was it was the second fight between Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward. And that's the fight where Arturo landed a good right hand, and I think it was the third round, knocking Mickey, his equilibrium off, and he did a face plant into the turnbuckle. And was there any negative feedback to you about fighter safety if they were going down either face first or backwards, hitting their head against the cage?
Well, first of all, safety was the number one priority of the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and they made that clear, and we made it clear that that was what was most important to us. And that is why they will be sending their officials to actually move around in the cage in the next couple of weeks, because I actually have one set up in Las Vegas. So one of the things that they're doing is because the officials obviously have to be, retrained, because officiating in a cage is going to be somewhat different from officiating in a ring, for the primary reason that you just mentioned, which is when do they need to step in and stop a contest. And that is what's most important to them, and quite frankly, it's what's most important to us. I mean, we obviously want more action-packed fights as promoters, but we also want our athletes to be taken care of. And the stoppages, that's one of the main focuses right now is, when is the right time to step in and stop a contest. And we're working with them on that.
And to elaborate, the other question we were discussing, Tom and I, some different instances that this is actually going to prevent, which is a good thing, is, and it doesn't happen often, but it has happened. I
already know where you're going. That's why I'm asking. You're talking about when they fall through the rope.
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah. And it came up in the hearing. I put it front and center, because it happens a lot more than people recognize. I mean, you've been in the sport 24 years. I've been in it for 18. Okay? And it happens a lot with the undercard fights. Guys come in, they're not quite experienced. The corner's not throwing in the towel. Next thing you know, they catch the shot, boom, and they just fall, slip right between the ropes onto a commissioner's table. I watched it happen to Daniel Judah on a show I did in 2010. Daniel came in, he fought a kid that came out of a tough man circuit in Richmond, Virginia, by the name of Adam Seal. And Adam caught him clean. He fell through the ropes and hit the commission table. Honestly, we thought he was dead because he wasn't moving. And it wasn't necessarily the punch. It was when he hit his head on the table. And who else? Bernard Hopkins. He fell on the floor. I think he was in Canada. Yeah. So it happened. And you know what? They're not slipping through fencing. They're not doing that. So, yeah.
Well, I did one time see live a guy fall out of a cage, and it was at an event
of a cage
in Iowa. the gate somehow didn't get locked correctly, and this guy went not only out of the cage onto the concrete ground on his back with the kid on top of him.
Oh my God!
And he comes back into the fight after a little rest period. He comes back into the fight as given the go ahead to fight and beats the guy.
Nice.
His nickname was the Minivan. It was one of the craziest fights I ever seen.
This happened once before, only one time in the UFC that I can remember, and that was UFC 3. This is some real trivia, but again, it was a problem with the lock. They didn't have the solid locks on the doors that they do now, and it was Keith Hackney fighting a 600-plus pound sumo wrestler.
That'll do it.
Oh my God!
And Hackney was he was about 6 foot tall, 200 pounds. It was a complete freak show. And Hackney was shoved right out of the cage, and again, it was they just didn't have that deadbolt on the door. But I think it would be safe now because we've learned the lessons from that. Hackney wasn't hurt, fortunately, but yeah, it was interesting.
Now, Jack, getting to your business plan here and the timeline, do you have any events window plan for dates? Any fighters showing a lot of interest that you can mention yet?
Yeah, I can't mention names yet. We are in talks with 2 broadcasters right now, and after the Nevada State Athletic Commission completes, their inspection and training, which is going to should take place next week, then we're going to start looking at dates first quarter of 2019, and it will be in Las Vegas. I should send a shout out to the state of Virginia. They have approved us as well, awesome. And we're in talks with some other states. I'm not too concerned about the regulatory aspects of it because normally, if you can pass a smell test in Nevada, you're pretty good around the country. So we're excited, man. We're really excited.
Awesome. And have you learned anything or tried to kind of carry off of the success of some of these bare knuckle boxing companies? I know you mentioned BKB. That was one that kind of faded out, but like the ones that Damon Feldman has just created, and then all these other ones coming out on top of that, has that been a problem or a help for you?
Nah, honestly, I've talked to David a couple times, stand-up guy. Matter of fact, we've got a kid that does a little bit of training over at our facility in Norfolk, Reggie Barnett. Shout out to Reggie.
Right.
He's fought in Feldman's gig. We sponsored him for one of those, and it doesn't hurt us at all. It helps us. I think I like what they're doing. It's not my cup of tea, but
it's brutal.
There's no way I could get it done in Vegas, but I think it's cool. If that's what you like, or that's what you want to see, then yeah. I mean, look, anything new and innovative and that resembles boxing, I'm for it. Because, guys, look at the amount of money that poured in to the industry over the course of the last 7 or 8 years, and quite honestly, boxing is still more popular throughout the UK than it is here. And we're a different society.
Right.
I think.
Well, when I always talk about the popularity of boxing versus MMA, I look at it this way: you can go almost anywhere in the world, and there's a boxing match close by on a weekend, or on whatever the night of the week that fighting is popular. And you can't say the same thing about MMA. And even now, even though it's been called the fastest growing sport in the world, there's a lot of places where MMA just doesn't exist. There's, there might not be as many boxing gyms as there used to be, but there's still boxing matches going on at a higher rate across the world than there are MMA matches. It's just a proven fact. So you have such a talent pool to pull from. The thing that's happening now that baffles me is these streaming services coming in and just trying to wipe out the pay-per-view model and just go everything streaming, and they're paying fighters directly from the streaming service now. It's to managerial contracts, like the Zone there.
Yeah.
And I wonder...
Let me I was going to comment on that. Yeah. I don't think the streaming services have wiped out pay-per-view.
Right.
I think that Mayweather and Pacquiao, and then Mayweather and McGregor, like, where do you go from there? I mean, where do you go? I mean, I think the pay-per-view model imploded. If it's not Floyd fighting an MMA fighter or fighting, one of the top guys, honestly, right now, I don't even know if you paired them up with Terrence Crawford, whether or not it would do Manny Pacquiao or Conor McGregor numbers. You don't get that same feeling when you talk to people about it. You know what I mean? So, which for us, ICB as an organization, we were lucky enough to start this in 2016. That was prior to Floyd and Conor even talking about fighting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're fortunate enough to be a little bit ahead of the curve. I mean, we may end up on a streaming service. We may not end up on a streaming service. Quite frankly, I think our product is going to be exciting enough where if it's the right matchup, people are going to want to see it on pay-per-view. Like, for instance, if Mayweather and Pacquiao, they announced they may be fighting again. We all saw that, right?
Right.
Now imagine if that were in the cage. Just imagine if that fight were in the cage.
That would be so much hype towards people thinking that Mayweather would be going to the cage to fight Khabib there. Next,
Imagine if Khabib and Mayweather boxed
in a cage. Yeah.
You see, right? See where I'm going with this?
Right.
So it's a wise man once told me, if you know where the metro is going to be built, you know where to build your store.
Right.
So,
Well, I said it before we got you on. It is the ultimate time for this because you're looking at so much competition in the marketplace, and there's a foothold for everybody because it's just everybody likes, it's like the old saying, are you going to go to a hockey game or a basketball game or would you rather watch a fight on the corner? Everybody's going to go to the fight on the corner. So it's a great marketplace, and like I said, these streaming services are coming in. All these promoters are fighting over different deals. You had Manny Pacquiao, you talked about him. He just switched to Al Heyman's Premier Boxing Champions, and even those guys did it differently when they came in. They decided to pay the networks to get the airtime rather than the other way around, and then they flipped the script to continue it. So now the networks are paying them. So you have to do something different to get a foothold, and at the same time, there's just so much talent out there. There's just an incredible talent pool. You've got the Contender reality show coming back. I don't know how well it's doing. I haven't watched it because it's on kind of an obscure channel this year. But it's a great time for boxing, and it's a great time to get a lot of these guys that, like I said, with bare knuckle boxing, decided, well, I'm not fighting in the UFC anymore. I'm not doing MMA. I want to come off the shelf and do something. So guys like Chris Lytle, who have had a boxing career, coming over to do bare knuckle did great. And you mentioned Reggie Barnett. There's a few guys who have really taken it, and they have incredible styles. Like, they don't go in there and knock guys out. They just tactically beat the crap out of people. and they're light guys, and it's going to be a completely different story in a cage and with boxing gloves on. But I've always thought that mixed martial arts had a weakness with boxing skills. A lot of these fighters come in and they get taught the traditional martial arts and the karate, and they don't know boxing defense, number one. So I think getting these guys to do box in a cage rather than, bare knuckle brawl or do jiu-jitsu or submission fighting, it could legitimately revolutionize MMA too, if you get these guys going back into MMA later.
Listen, Mark Ratner was at my hearing, and they open up, the floor for objections, and I didn't see him object. He sat there, he had the paperwork, and he really looked like he was shaking his head like, hey, this is pretty interesting. And listen, I mean, if they have guys on their roster, okay, and let's say their ground game is not, let's say it's subpar, okay, they got to work on that. They could still, I'm not saying because I'm not talking to UFC, but if they were to allow, some of the guys, down the roster to come over and box, I mean, they could, really become stars, and they could go back to UFC because I'm not a threat to UFC. You see? And on the other side of that coin, I'm not a threat to Heyman, Oscar, or Aaron. Okay? Because they're doing traditional boxing in their ring. If they want to let a guy come over, we'll be more than happy to have him come over. You know what I mean? He can go right back, or he can stay. It's up to them. But what I'm saying is, I'm less of a threat. I'm more of an option.
Right.
Okay? And that's the way we, that's the narrative that we're putting out as we're talking to people. And keep in mind, I mean, you guys will probably taken off guard by this. A lot of the promoters are being taken off. They're like, whoa, wait a second. You're doing what? And so we have to go through the explanation. No, it's boxing. Yeah,
well, ironically, I think when I brought it up the first time on this show, years ago, I think, I was thinking that would be something I would be good at for my boxing style, to be able to fight in the cage, because I still am planning to try to get my first amateur MMA fight. And I did a little bit of training for it, but I'm still, at the core a boxer. So, I mean, it would be so interesting to just be able to have that environment in a cage before even making the crossover. If I do ever make the crossover to MMA, I thought that would be so much more of a better transition place to box in the cage first and then actually have an MMA fight later. Or to go back and forth even. It would be great. I just thought it would be such a different sport even years ago when I first kind of popped into my head. But I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one. I knew at the time I wasn't the only one who thought, geez, I wonder how boxing in a cage would go. Because, I mean, every time you watch the mixed martial arts stuff on the training videos and like the Ultimate Fighter shows on the reality TV shows on the networks, they're boxing in a cage already. That's how they do their sparring for MMA. They're I mean, they're throwing kicks and fake elbows and stuff, but they got boxing gloves on, so it doesn't take too much of a leap to think of what the actual competition would be like with just the gloves and no kicking, no elbows, no dirty boxing.
Right? Yeah, here's the bet that I've placed. The bet that I've placed is the combat sport athlete of the future is going to be both proficient in MMA and boxing. And I'm telling you, that's where the market's going.
Right. Well, you got Bellator too, which is kind of a prime example of one of the first companies in MMA to really diversify and go into kickboxing too. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're kind of probably going to leave the UFC in the dust eventually if they keep building like they do. And you've got the UFC now saying they're going to build Zuffa boxing, but they haven't done a damn thing to prove it. They're actually blocking one of their best possible fights with Khabib and McGregor. I mean Mayweather.
Hey, Dana, give me a call, man. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation, man.
Yeah. He wants the best.
It's a new day, man, and we're just excited to be a part of it. That's where we are.
All right.
Well, it is, Jack, and as the resident psychic of the show, okay, and I'm experienced with years on the Miss Cleo psychic line. Someone had to answer the phone. Okay, I was between jobs at that point, but my crystal ball is just giving that kind of a glare right now, saying, "Wow, this is going to be hot." So I can't wait.
All right.
Now, Jack, one other question I wanted to ask you: what do you love most about the sport of boxing and this new concept that you're going to be putting out there for everybody to see?
Oh, man. I'll be honest with you. The reaction of the kids in my amateur boxing program when we assembled that cage in our gym. And hold on. No, seriously. Because the sport has been good to me, okay? And, you know, it's provided a living. I've had my ups and downs, and it's like everybody else, you know. But, you know, we want to make sure that the sport is going to be here for the next generation. And when that cage was assembled in that gym, and because we've got a ring in there as well. It's not just, you know, our fight zone. We've got a regular traditional boxing ring in there as well. But the look on their faces, and when they got the chance to spar in it, and move around in it, it gave me a glimpse of the future. And it was a validation, even beyond the approval in Nevada and everything else. When the kids saw it and we got excited about it, that's when I knew that we've accomplished something. Even if we never got any further than that, and it's approved, whatever. But we accomplished something, and the kids see the future. That's what I would say it is. Yep.
Awesome. And is there anybody else that kind of helped you out along the way, or was a role model for you that you'd like to mention?
Oh, wow. Man, I've got a great team of advisors around me. Dale Wilbur, Dwayne Leslie, Keith Henry. Going way back to Don Elbaum, one of the first matchmakers. It's funny. I talked to Don today, and I said, I call him up. I'm like, hey, Dad, it's your son. I'm looking for that child support. He bust out laughing. Don, yeah, done a lot of work with Don. The first guy that gave me my big break, Cedric Kushner. I don't know if you guys remember him.
Oh, yeah.
South Africa. Yeah.
Cedric Kushner. I'll never forget it. I just got into the business. I was coming off my second club level show, and I got introduced to him, and he was kind of in a pinch. And, he had a heavyweight explosion show that he had to get done. And I was like, all right, I'll take it. I'm green as the day is long in the sport, right? And cost me quite a bit of money to put it together. I only had 2 or 3 weeks, but I got it done. And so his show went off. He was happy. We had a couple bumps in the road, but we got the show off. He was happy. And then he started introducing me to other folks, And, that's what I mean, what my statement earlier, the business has been good to me, And so I want to see the business around, 20, 30 years from now, and in today's market, media, there's so much media out there, this whole streaming thing could be a good thing, or it could be the end of our sport, So, because if it doesn't work now, with all the fighting that's going on, if it doesn't work now, it could go away, at least on the American side. So, I owe quite a few people, a debt of gratitude for being in the position that I'm in. But some of them you have to wait for the book. The book will be forthcoming soon.
Now, do you have any favorite boxers of all time, and maybe right now, if they're different?
Jack Johnson.
Awesome. Yeah, he came up in a discussion on Facebook the other day. A guy named Iceman John Scully likes to start these debates, so he was talking about who's the best boxer of all time, who doesn't get enough credit, and of course I mentioned Rocky Marciano, and everybody's trying to rip that to shreds, and then I come to mind with, I thought Jack Johnson to me was more impressive than Muhammad Ali in a lot of ways, because it was a tougher time, and he still managed to get all those wins, and also Sugar Ray Robinson was up there in the greatest debate too, but So many great fighters. But go ahead.
Listen. I had a conversation about this the other day, and to me, Floyd Mayweather Jr. is the most. I don't know. I think he has the best boxing IQ that I've ever seen. You know, and everybody talks to him and says, "Oh man, he didn't fight everybody in their prime and all this and other," but he beat everybody. He beat everybody that was put in front of him, and you cannot, because anything can happen in boxing on any given night. And he's perfect, and people want to shut him down because because he's been hugely successful in and out of the ring. Floyd has the best IQ. Ali was my hero growing up. I love Muhammad Ali, but Jack Johnson, man, you could not discount. I mean, the guy would get out of the ring after winning a fight and not know if he was going to get lynched or not. It's like, how do you, and then he, he's like, I'm my own man. I'm gonna do my own thing. If I want to date a girl out of my race, I'm going to do that. You're not going to tell me that. If I want to race a car and beat y'all in a race, I'm going to do that too. He lived his life his way. And you in that time, the black, you didn't live like that, man. You didn't live like that. So, hats off to the Jack Johnson family. Really.
Well, I've seen video too of Ali giving shouts out to Jack Johnson as well. So I know he was an idol for him. And just some of the surviving interviews that Jack Johnson did. I mean, he was as abrasive, if not more, than Muhammad Ali in some of his boldness. Yeah. But great guy. And I'm glad that Trump actually pardoned him. That was good stuff. I'm glad that Trump pardoned him.
Yeah.
Took long enough, right?
Yeah, I'm glad he did it, though. It should have been done a long time ago. So hats off to Trump for doing it. Really? Yeah. Nobody else did it.
Okay. And so looking forward, you mentioned you're still working on dates. Is the plan to do shows in both Las Vegas and Virginia already, since they've both been approved, or are you still working on just Vegas?
We're going to go in all states, man. It's just we those were the first two states that we applied to. And after I got the approval in Nevada, I went to Virginia, and we're in discussions with 2 other states. So basically, what happens is they reach out to Nevada and they say, "Okay, what did you go through to get the waiver?" Because you're talking about things that are on the legislative books. It's laws. So yeah, but the reception has been good. I mean, listen, if you're a regulatory body, if you're a commissioner, you need more events. So I mean, if this is a viable product, why wouldn't you want it? It's not bare enough for boxing not to knock it. It's boxing, yet it's on a fighting platform that you already somewhat allow fighting on. You just allow a different type of combat.
So how do people who want to get involved, either as fighters, investors, whatsoever, officials, how do they get in touch with you? How do they find your stuff online?
Our website is www.icbleague.com. You can hit us up on Twitter at IC Boxing League. Also Instagram, and we're on Facebook as well.
All right, and I have to ask, there's a guy out there named Travis Fulton. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Travis Fulton.
Not related?
He's not related.
Oh, all right. Well, you got to look him up. Look him up on Sherdog and look him up on BoxRec. He might be a candidate for you because he fights, I think, every night of the week. the guy
in boxing and MMA.
Yes.
In both. He was a true pioneer and a true crossover, and this guy has done it all. Nice guy, too. I've had a pleasure of talking to him. He's done it all.
I figured you had to be related.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a little lighter complected than I am, but I'm looking at him right now. Travis Fulton, yep.
He's got his own Wikipedia page and everything. I think he's got over 300 MMA fights on record.
Awesome.
And that's hard to do because, so many fighters. I mean, I'm sure he's probably got 400 actual fights because some of them aren't on record, but I mean, just to get 300 on record is crazy. Doesn't happen.
That's amazing.
So, and he boxes too. He usually loses, but he does box a lot.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, listen, guys, I appreciate y'all having me on the show. And
no problem.
hey, let's do it again. We're gonna have more news for you very, very soon. And I really enjoyed this conversation. Hopefully, we can do it again.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Any way we can be involved, just reach out to us, let me know, and we'll chip in however we can.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk soon.
All right. Great.
All right, Jack. Best of luck, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
So you have it. Jack Fulton. And, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I think that, like the bare knuckle thing, that's not Jack's cup of tea. A lot of not only MMA fighters, but guys who were thinking about coming from other sports to MMA, but maybe weren't ready for the type of stuff, were interested enough in bare knuckle to sign with these other promotions that are coming out after Damon Feldman came out and put it on the map there. But here you have a situation, not a problem where worried about knuckles occasion you get to. So I think a lot of these guys who were good strikers in MMA, good punchers, and who are now kind of between careers or at the end of their contracts, this would give them a definite option. I think way more than boxers, though. Boxers is going to be the harder thing to transfer to the cage. But, like he said, his kids love it at the gym, so maybe when actual boxers, pro boxers at the pro levels to fight in it, they'll get the same reaction. Who knows?
Well, yeah, I think let's just let the market decide this.
Right.
A free market guy, and we'll see if it's a niche or if there'll be more crossover. I mean, I'm not seeing a downside at this point.
Well, I definitely hope it takes off and we latch right onto it ourselves and help it go right up along the way. Because I think it's a great idea. Like I told him, I would do it. If I was in full-time training mode, I wouldn't hesitate to be one of the first people to try it. I think I'd be good at it. But, I was pretty good at boxing, so why not? If it's just boxing rules, it's just a cage. I haven't even sparred in a cage, wrestled, anything yet. I haven't really even been inside of a cage, I don't think. Except for, I think the closest I got was when somebody was giving T-shirts away at an event, and I went up the stairs. I have not been in a cage officially, so I don't know, but I think I would enjoy that. Anyway, we have some results to talk about, boxing and MMA. From last week, we had a UFC fight night, and we had some pretty interesting boxing matches last week. We mentioned the Baranchik one with the big old busted eye. But the other one I wanted to mention was Heather Hardy getting a unanimous decision, so no doubt about it, this time against Shelley Vincent, both former guests of ours. We talked about this last week. And I said I was going to correct the name of the Huey Fury's opponent on that card where the guy went off on his trainer. That was Kubrat Pulev. And he actually beat Huey Fury in that fight. It proves to 26-1. Huey Fury drops to 21-2. And the co-main event there was Tervel Pulev, 11-0, against Leonardo Damian Ruzizi, who is Pulev is 12-0 now, and Ruzizi is 19-6. Let's see what else we had going on. This match of the week went as planned. One of them from France, the guy who was 25-9-3 against the guy who was 3-12. The guy got his 26 win there. I love it when TBA is on the results page. Over in Germany, we had Dominic Bosel getting his 28th win to go with one loss over, got the win over Enrico Koling at light heavyweight. Koling falls to 26-3. That one was for the EBU European light heavyweight title. And the German BDB cruiserweight title was on the line too. Roman Fress stayed undefeated. He goes to 5-0. Beat Bjorn Blaschke, who falls to 12-10-1. There was some other bigger fights here somewhere. Over in Baja California, we had Alessandro Rigaccini, improved to 22-0. That is not an Italian pasta. He beat Andras Villaman, 14-0. So somebody's had to go on that one, and that was Villaman's. That one was for the vacant World Boxing Council silver welterweight title. And our Jesus fight of the week, well, actually, it says P, whatever that means. So it doesn't actually say who won that one. So I shouldn't say Villamanzo had to go. I was going to say the Jesus fight of the week too is on here, but that's another P. What does P mean in box rec? Postponed?
I don't know. It's a great question.
Predetermined? No. So I guess we can't read those results, but let's get the win. So here's a win for Jesus. Enrique Silva in the main event against Jesus Hernandez Sierra. Enrique comes in at bantamweight at 9-8. Jesus comes in at 1-4. So he got his second win. Jesus. Good job. A tough one. Down in Sinaloa, Mexico, we had Omar Chavez at middleweight in the main event. He improved to 37-5-1 over Nicolas Luquez Palacios, who falls to 10-6. And then down in San Luis Potosi, Mexico, we had a pretty interesting female fight. The World Boxing Council World Female Bantamweight title on the line between Mariana Juarez with 50 wins, 9 losses, and 4 draws, beating Suzy Ramadan, who is 27-2 going in, so she's 27-3 now. And Mariana gets her 51st win. She cracked 50. Alright. I'll find some other stuff. How about this? Super welterweights. Naheem Chowdhury in the United Kingdom. 0-29. Fought a guy, Lee Williams. 0-1. Somebody's O had to go in the other direction. And guess whose it was? Naheem Chowdhury is now the winner of one fight to go with 29 losses.
Wow. Wow.
He didn't want to get that 30th loss. That was his motivation. Screw that, I gotta get a win. I can't break 30. That was in the United Kingdom. Another one in the United Kingdom. And Andre Sirotkin took his first loss against John Ryder at super middleweight. Ryder improves to 27-4. Sirotkin is 15-1 now. Also, Ryan Doyle, 17-2-1, lost to Jordan Gill, who stays undefeated at 22-0. That one was for the Commonwealth featherweight title. And good old Ted Cheeseman got his 15th win over Asinia Byfield, who takes his second loss for the vacant BBBFC British Super Welterweight title to Cheeseman there. Alright. Elvis fight of the week. Elvis lost last week.
The King?
Improved to 9-44. Or declines, I should say. 9-44-4. Kyle Williams beat him and got his 10th win over there in the UK. Elvis Guillen. And we had fights down in New Orleans. As I mentioned, Baranchik beat Anthony Yiggett into a horrible black eye. That was our real somebody's always got to go fight last week. Baranchik came in at 18-0. Yiggett 21-0-1. So Baranchik gets his 19th win in the vacant International Boxing Federation World Super Lightweight title. And Regis Prograis in the main event stayed undefeated. He's 23-0 now. Terry Flanagan was the victim there. He's 32-2. And Regis won the World Boxing Council Diamond Super Lightweight title there. Also, we had Subriel Matias getting a win over very seasoned opponent, Fernando David Saucedo. 62-8-3 was his record going in. Subriel gets his 12th win. Good stuff there. And then Daniel Jacobs also got a big win at Madison Square Garden over the weekend. Improves to 35-2 over Sergey Derevyanchenko, who was 12-0 coming in. And another vacant title there for Jacobs, the International Boxing Federation World Middleweight title. And then the co-main event there was Alberto Machado, 20-0 against Ewendale Evans, who is 20-1. Or was 20-1. Now he's 20-2. Machado is 21-0. And that was the card that Shelley Vincent and Heather Hardy were on as well. Heather says she doesn't plan to come back to boxing unless it's for another title, but she did win a title in this one. The vacant World Boxing Organization World Female Featherweight title. So she's 22-0 officially in boxing. Shelley takes her second loss. So she is 23 and Heather Hardy now. 2 losses. Patrick Day also on that card beat Alvin Ayala. Day improves to 16-2-1. Ayala falls to 29-12-1. That's it for last week in boxing. And we come up with the 3rd of November. There's very few big fights this weekend. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it's such a slow boxing weekend. But there are some worth mentioning here. Just trying to find the first big one here on the list. Next week is a bigger week, actually. But here's one overseas, it looks like. Over in Orne, France, Bryce Bassoli, 11-1-1 at welterweight, fighting Steve Jamoy, who's 24-5-2. That one's for the IBO Continental welterweight title. And I don't know if he's related to the General, but Timo Schwarzkopf is in action over in Germany. He's 18-2. I don't know if he's related to Storm Norman. But he's fighting Florin Cardos, who's 19-1. That was for the EBU Super Lightweight title. What else we got going on? Just checking here. Alright. Over in the UK, there's nothing too outrageous here for big records, but the Commonwealth British Empire flyweight titles in the main event here at York Hall, Bethnal Green, London. We got Jay Harris, 13-0 against Ross Murray, who's 8-1. And in the co-main event, light heavyweights, Kirk Garvey, 11-1, and Andre Sterling, who's 8-0. That one's for the vacant BBC Southern Area light heavyweight title. But this is a great name for a guy who's an opponent. This guy's 5-41. 5 wins, 41 losses. Fighting a guy, Jermaine Brown, who's 2-0. Guy's 5-41. Guess what his last name is?
What?
Sharp. I don't think he's very sharp. If he's 5-41, his name's Darryl.
Yeah, I'm listening to that. Listening to that record, it should be Cleveland Brown. There'd be a good one. Yeah, 1-29, Cleveland Brown.
Then we've got some other better fights in the United Kingdom. Bantamweights, undefeated Ryan Burnett, 19-0, looking for his 20th win over Nonito Donaire. The United States name. He is 38-5 coming in. This one's for 2 titles, WBA Super World Bantamweight title and a vacant WBC Diamond Bantamweight title. And we got another Ryan in the co-main event, Ryan Martin, who's 22-0, fighting Josh Taylor at super lightweight, who is 13-0 for the World Boxing Council Silver super lightweight title. And this is in Glasgow, Scotland, actually, this fight card. Zach Parker, also undefeated on the card. He's 16-0, fighting Darryl Williams, also undefeated, 17-0, for the vacant BBBFC British super middleweight title. And if that's not enough, we got a Postal. We're going Postal. Victor Postal, 29-2, fighting CR Alsgul, who's 14-1 at super lightweight. And then another one worth mentioning, bantamweights. Paul Butler, 26-2, fighting Yoann Boyo, who is 41-5. Well, that's a great card for Scotland. It'll be on TV over here, though. Maybe you gotta have DAZN. Former guest of ours fighting on kind of an obscure card here, but it's Kathy Duva card, actually.
Wow.
Events in Brooklyn. Sullivan Barrera in the main event. He's 21-2 at light heavyweight, fighting Sean Monahan, who's 29-1. And our guest Dennis Duglin, 21-6. We had him on years ago. He's fighting Saul Roman, who is 43-12. Big step up for him, I would say.
Roman's a fighter. Saul Roman, I've seen him before. He's going to give Dennis a real hard time because Dennis is skilled. Sometimes Dennis has had lessons where at a game, his chin went down, but he is obviously a skilled fighter. But Saul Roman is tough, and he got all once.
Well, yeah. I remember Dennis talking to us. He's a pretty disciplined guy, and this is definitely a lot of experience for him to be facing. So we'll see how he does there. It's a pretty good opportunity for him to show his worth there in the ring. So we'll be rooting for him for sure. And if you're watching ESPN Plus this weekend, you're going to see some Miguels in action. We got lots of Miguels. We got the Miguel fight of the week in the main event. Miguel Berchelt versus Miguel Roman. I don't know if Saul Roman and Miguel are brothers, but they got 100 fights between them. Miguel Roman, 60-12 in the main event there, and he's fighting Miguel Berchelt, who is 34-1. That one's for the WBC World Super Featherweight title. And then, if that's not enough Miguels, we got a Miguel in the co-main event. Miguel Mariaga, he's 26-3, fighting Jose Estrella, who's got 20 wins, 14 losses, and 1 draw. And another one worth mentioning, Saul Rodriguez, 21-0-1, fighting Claudio Rosendo Tapia, 28-18-4 at lightweight. That's it for the boxing slate this week. So we go to last week's UFC Fight Night 138. Anthony Smith getting a submission win in the third round over Volkan Ozdemir. And I didn't watch any of these fights on this card, unfortunately. I didn't get to take much time off on Saturday night.
I think you'd have been yelling, Rich, about defense. Because it got very sloppy.
Yeah, well, I can imagine that's why Artem Lobov lost his unanimous decision to Michael Johnson in the co-main event. Because I think I pretty much blew apart his defense in the last episode. I don't think he's changed much, but I don't know. Did you get to see the fights, Tom?
Yes.
So how did
it went pretty much as expected. Because our team, if nothing else, has a pretty good chin, so he was able to last. But there's no doubt about the decision. And the main event, Volkan won the first 2 rounds, but they just seemed to gas. I mean, I think he was expecting it would be a quick knockout. And Smith just hung in there and just kept firing and took some good shots, but eventually Volkan succumbed to the takedown, and Smith was able to finish him off. But Smith has one of those almost like a taekwondo style with your hands down at your hips. And I was thinking as I was watching it with you, I know you'd been blowing out the television. Hands up! Defense!
All right.
Good for him, though. He pulled it off, so see if he can make it work.
Wow, I believe that's his 4th win in a row now in the UFC, so started off with Rashad Evans.
He's on a roll now. He's talking title shot, but he was ranked number 10 going into this, so I think he's at least 1 or 2 fights away from that.
Right.
But light heavyweight's wide open, so see what happens.
Right, in a world where Khabib can get $50 to $100 million for his next fight, Anthony Smith should be able to get a title shot. But we'll see. Michael Johnson probably deserves a title shot a little bit more with that kind of big win there. But the other fights there on this card, Misha Serkunov beating Patrick Cummins by arm triangle choke, 2 minutes and 40 seconds into that fight. Andre Sukumtath beating Jonathan Martinez by unanimous decision. Gian Vellante got the nod over Ed Herman by split decision. Court McGee beating Alex Garcia by unanimous decision. Sean Strickland over Nordine Taleb by DKO, 3 minutes and 10 seconds into the second. Nasrat Hakparast beating Tibalt Goti by unanimous decision. And we had Calvin Kattar back in the winning column over Chris Fishgold, Boston guy there, guy that I've been in touch with over the years for the website. He got the TKO in 4 minutes and 11 seconds into the first. We had a female fight. Talita Bernardo got the win over Sarah Maras from Ultimate Fighter fame. That was a unanimous decision win for Bernardo. Dawn Madge got the win over Tay Edwards by head kick KO 14 seconds into the second round. Second fight of the night, Arjan Singular beat Marcelo Golm by unanimous decision. And first fight of the night, Stephen Ray beat Justin Ayari by unanimous decision. And now, the big crystal ball time. Daniel Cormier versus Derek Lewis. What do you think? UFC 230 coming up this weekend here. What do you think about that one, Tom?
Well, you can't count out Lewis completely. I mean, he's shown he never gives up, and somehow he can just, no matter how sloppy and messy and seesaw of a brawl it is, you can't count him out. But I just feel that Daniel's just going to be a little too outskilled for him. Yeah, and the odds makers agree with me. By the way, Daniel is minus 700.
Wow.
How about that?
Yeah.
So you want to make $100, risk 700, and Derek is plus 450. So divide him up, and that's close to 6-1.
Wow.
There you go.
The Beast definitely looked pretty sloppy in his last fight, and somehow got the win by miracle. But he does have the pack a punch, like you said, he's got a puncher's chance. But Daniel Cormier just has a way more complete game, and just brings a lot more to the table.
And I can't see Cormier. Cormier's only risk on the ground, I would think, would be on his back. But we very seldom, if ever, see Daniel Cormier on his back.
Right.
And I think his wrestling skills will make the difference, unless he gets caught. I mean, he's shown he's got a great chin, but always got puncher's chance. But
and then we've got Chris Weidman back in action. He's 14-3 coming in here against Ronaldo Souza, 25-6. Been known by a lot of nicknames. The Arm Collector was one of his nicknames back in Bellator days, I believe. I think he still might go by that. I think he calls himself the Alligator. There's a lot of them. But Chris Weidman, obviously the former champ there. So this is obviously one that's got some title implications, depending on who wins. Then we got Jared.
Yeah, I think this is for each. Whoever wants that title shot really has to win this.
Yeah. As far as making a prediction on this one, I'm going to guess Weidman because he knows what the title takes. And Souza, he's got the 6 losses. He's kind of one of those journeyman type of guys. He's always going to be stuck second, third, fourth. I don't think he's ever going to, evolve to that point where he's going to be dynamic enough to keep mowing guys down. I think he's just going to keep struggling. But Weidman doesn't have as much experience as he does either.
His stand-up games evolve somewhat too, but I just think Weidman's got a little bit more. And Weidman is at the point too where he's been out of the sunlight for a while, so I think he's really hungry for it. So
right.
I would agree with you.
Then we got Jared Cannonier, 10-4, fighting David Branch, who's 22-4. Carl Roberson, 6-1, fighting Jack Marshman, who's 22-7. Derek Brunson, 18-6, and Israel Adesanya, undefeated at 14-0. A lot of people are hyped up on this guy. He's a really dynamic striker and comes at you from different angles. So interesting to see how he's going to go against a very seasoned guy here.
I got to check out for the night, guys, because I have no back to that.
Oh, all right there, Tony. Thanks for stopping by.
We'll do it next week.
Good night.
Catch you next week. Adios. All right, so we're almost done anyway. But we've got a couple more fights here. Big one I really didn't expect to be made even. The Ultimate Fighter contestants here that never got to fight, Roxanne Modafferi and Sijara Eubanks on this card, right in the middle. Sijara Eubanks is only 3-2, but don't let her record deceive you because she's just demolished people on the Ultimate Fighter. And then Modafferi showed a massively improved fight game, but just didn't have enough in the finale. And then Eubanks actually was supposed to fight her, or she came in at the last second. I forget how that went. But anyway, this is a pretty big fight for Modafferi, who I've met in person at an event out in Worcester, Massachusetts. So I guess I'll be rooting for her on that one. But Eubanks is pretty tough. Then we've got Jason Knight. He's got 20 wins, 5 losses, fighting Jordan Rinaldi, 13-6. And Julio Arce, 15-2, fighting Shaman Moraes, 10-2. Lyman Good, 19-4, fighting Ben Saunders, 22-10-2. Matt Fevela, 6-1, fighting Lando Venata, 9-3-1. Shane Burgos, 10-1, fighting Kurt Holabaugh, 17-5. Second fight of the night, Ryan Kelleher, 19-9, fighting Montel Jackson, 6-1. And first fight of the night, Adam Weeksrek, 10-1, fighting Marcos Rogerio de Lima, 15-5-1. And that about does it. That's about it for our show. Thanks for stopping by, folks.
All right, bud. We will do it next week. And Jeff Daniels has invited me to go up to having a boxing card up in Cleveland. And awesome. He said the main event is 2 heavyweights. One of them from the MMA world who's doing the crossover thing. So this is exciting about this crossover stuff. Maybe this cage boxing is really going to speed it up.
Yeah, you think it would be the perfect purgatory area between boxing and MMA,
Yeah, and it's definitely, like with younger people, he really made a good point about that.
Yeah.
Really drove that home, that with younger people, if you're 15 or under, all you've ever seen is the cage, really, and like to see this, so it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. So this was an outstanding job to you for getting him on.
All right. Really we'll keep everybody updated, and special thanks there to Jack Fulton, and I'm glad he connected with his brother from another mother, Travis. It'll be interesting to see if he hires him. Well, until next week.
All right, bud.
That's all we've got.
Lots